Everyone, welcome to another edition of the Final Down NFL podcast with me, Jim, Punk Raider, and Denver Dave. We're talking about the NFL, boys. How we doing?
It's all getting very exciting, isn't it? Free agent frenzy just round the corner. So it's almost like transfer deadline day.
It's close. It's close to that.
Broncos, we've got no cap space and we've got no draft picks. What do you think I've got in me? This is not exciting at all. I'm just watching everyone else get stronger. That's it.
I thought Russell was supposed to have a bounce back year, basically.
Yeah, but that's not happening right now, is it?
Oh, yeah. Or ever. But guys, we're doing our autopsy of the 2022 season. We have covered two of the divisions already. We're working our way through the AFC. We're going to go on to the NFC after that. We did the East and the West. We're now going to do the North of the AFC. It's covering one of my teams. Well, my team. One of our teams. My team. That's how I wanted to say it. And
we've already done ours. So
we've done yours. Yeah, got them out of the way. So AFC North, we're going to do the same thing as every time. We've got a 5-minute time. We work from the top to the bottom of the division. So that means we start our 5 minutes with the Cincinnati Bengals. So a better season in terms of regular season results for the Bengals after a shaky start. They finished 12-4 and may well have beaten the Bills in week 17 before what happened to DeMar Hamlin. That game in an 8-game win streak that they carried into the playoffs. They squeaked past the Ravens before trouncing the Bills in Buffalo, but this year's AFC Championship game, they fell just short as Mahomes managed to find a way past them despite his injury. Best game? Well, it may be lazy, but that divisional playoff win in Buffalo was so impressive. It looked like the team was Madden glitched, so they weren't playing in snow, but the Bills were. Worst game, this is an easy one. They lost in week 8 to the Cleveland Browns, 32-13. Going into the fourth quarter, they were down 25-0 to Jacoby Brissett. So, Cincinnati, talk to me about these Bengals. Were they better? Were they worse than you expected this year?
Honestly, hand on heart, I think the Bengals pretty much reached where we thought they would be. However, they didn't have to take the long way around to get it. I remember doing a podcast probably around week 4 or 5 where we were really struggling to understand why the Bengals were being as god-awful as they were.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not entirely sure why that was. You know, at the time we surmised it was the Super Bowl hangover and they probably missed the playoffs. But they completely managed to flip it around and turn into, like you said, this well-rounded, well-balanced, possibly the most well-balanced team in the NFL. You know, Joe Burrow's playing at a level that, spoiler alert, go and listen to our top 10 quarterbacks Patreon podcast from last week and you'll find out what we think about Joe Burrow. But at such a high level that, you know, even comparisons are being made towards Mr. Mahomes himself. So, you know, I think their running game's been good. Their passing game's been exceptional. The O-line eventually got it sorted out. I think as a whole, they'll look on the season as successful. I know they didn't make the Super Bowl this year, but I think they've put enough long-term pieces in place that will allow them to continue to be a force in the AFC for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think the Bengals, I think they achieved what we kind of expected them to. It's good that they've managed to sort of break that Super Bowl hangover curse because we've seen it significantly with the losers of the Super Bowl. They tend to go and fluff it the following season. As it was this year, it was actually the Super Bowl winners that hadn't managed to fluff it. It's probably the worst Super Bowl defense anyone's ever seen. But no, the Bengals came back from a dodgy early season flip and did really well. I was impressed with them, especially towards the end of the season. They had real sort of tangible momentum. The last year they went into the off-season and really improved the offensive line, which I think they needed to do. This year, I think they really need to now go and improve the secondary, most notably the cornerback position. So Chidobe Awuzie is a good number 2, but kind of no more than that. Cam Taylor-Britt looks pretty good. Mike Hilton's over the head a little bit now, but Eli Apple, come on. You know, it's time to get a new starting corner. You know, go to the Rams and offer them a first and a second and go and get Jalen Ramsey or something like that because the Rams will bite your hand off for that at the moment. But go and make a marquee signing in free agency, something that we haven't seen the Bengals do. But no, a great season from them. It's disappointing the way it ended, but I think it can be classified as a success.
They've also got to re-sign Jesse Bates, the safety. He needs paying this off-season. And, we'll see if the Bengals have got any money to do so. Notoriously tight franchise, probably the tightest. The NFLPA grades came out, didn't they, as well, last week, grading all the teams. And the Bengals were way down the bottom in terms of like not paying for the meals and stuff. Just an absolutely tight franchise. We've always known it. So they're talking tough about T. Higgins, about like not wanting to trade him this year, but they just have to lose him for nothing next year when his contract's up, because they just won't pay him because they've got to pay Joe Burrow the king's ransom. They're going to have to pay Jamar Chase. This could have been the best we had of the Bengals. I'm certainly hoping so. But talking about them getting better, I mean they've got the standard picks this year, 1 to 7.
They pay a competitive salary. It's not as though, with T. Higgins they're all out or anything like that. I think they can still operate competitively in the free agency market. I don't agree with giving Jesse Bates a huge amount. I mean, a free safety you don't want to overpay. But no, I think we've got maneuverability anyway.
There we go. That is the end of the Bengals. 5 minutes. We move on to the team. What's the matter, Dave?
No, saying well done to the 2022 Bengals. That was all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, congratulations. You got to the championship game again. Didn't make it to the Super Bowl this time, though. We move on to the team that finished second in the AFC North, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. And let's face it, the news that dominates the season for the Ravens and this off-season continues to be the quarterback Lamar Jackson and the contract impasse that has happened between him and the team. Lamar had them at 9-3 before suffering a knee injury in Week 13 against the Broncos. Despite reports that he would be back soon, Lamar didn't suit up again, and the team got taken out in the wildcard round. Their 10-7 record was 2 wins better than last year. Best game, they got a good win in Pittsburgh, in Tampa, and at home to the Bengals. But I picked their Week 3 win at the Patriots because it was a 4 passing touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown Lamar show, just 1 week after their capitulation at home to the Dolphins. The defense also picked Mac Jones 3 times. Worst game, they only scored 3 points in the Week 15 game in Cleveland. Mark Andrews' 31 receiving yards was a team record in that game. Guys, talking about the Ravens, what the hell's going on there?
I mean, the Ravens hold all the cards, and they're waiting to see which way they fall. Absolutely. So they've put a not exclusive, I can't remember the term of it.
Non-exclusive franchise tag.
Yeah.
What they said, non-exclusive franchise tag, which means basically if any team wants to come in and get Lamar, any team can. He's on the open market, but you have to give up 2 first-round picks. Now, if you're picking sort of in the low 20s, high 20s, low 30s, bargain, absolute bargain. If you're picking sort of 4th or 5th overall, probably not so much so. But and what it means is that the Ravens have to pay Lamar around about $32 million this year.
Yeah,
and that's set in stone as by the NFLPA. It's fully guaranteed, so if he does get injured, he still gets it. The problem is, Lamar wants, apparently, if you believe what's out there being reported, he wants $200 million, fully guaranteed. And the word on the street is that the Ravens and Lamar are $100 million apart. That's enough on Lamar.
Lamar has. We've seen this before with Le'Veon Bell. Okay, this exact situation. I know it's different numbers because quarterback, running back. Lamar Jackson, I think, may sit out next season. I can see a scenario that happens where no one comes in for him because no one wants to give up the 2 firsts, which I think is ridiculous. He's MVP in 2019. Just go and get him.
I think it's the salary. I think it's the $200 million fully guaranteed. That's why I think
they haven't even talked to him though. They haven't even negotiated with him, Dave.
Exactly.
So how do you know that?
Listen, if you're $100 million, if the Ravens are $100 million apart from them,
says the Ravens.
All the other owners know it's in the Ravens' interest to say goodbye. Why are the Ravens going to go out there and just falsify news? All the other teams will know. They will know.
Because what they're trying to do is because he hasn't got an agent, they're trying to back him into a corner to accept whatever they offer, basically. So if without an agent going out currently and, basically going to teams and going, look, you can sign Lamar. He doesn't want 200 million. What he wants is 200 million guaranteed, a 10-year contract. He wants a Mahomes deal. That's what he's looking at.
Not security.
Exactly that. So, I think it's a bit disingenuous to say that Lamar just wants 200 million guaranteed, because I can guarantee you, if there was an agent involved here, that wouldn't be the final outcome. Now, the problem is, because Lamar has said so long he doesn't want an agent and so on and so forth, he's going to end up in a situation where he doesn't want to lose face and doesn't want to be told, I told you so. So he's just going to end up kind of not getting anything that he wants to. So I definitely see a scenario whereby he can sit out this season. On the whole, though, the Ravens have got to be disappointed in their season. I think they're very up and down. They're one of those middle of the road teams at the minute that don't really know what they are. The last couple of seasons, they've had loads and loads of injuries to their running backs, so they need to sort out that running game and stop relying on their quarterback to do it all. They also need to help their quarterback by actually getting some receivers in to help it.
Well, that's why I want to say thank you to Eric DaCosta as the general manager. He's been with them for decades under Ozzie Newsome, but he took over as GM in 2019. Look at what he's done. 2019 first round, he picked up Marquise Brown, bust. 2020 round 3, Devin Duvernay, round 6, James Prochet. 2021 round 1, Rashad Bateman, round 4, Tylen Wallace. 2022 didn't even bother despite having 11 picks. He has not helped Lamar Jackson. None of them have helped him. They haven't helped him improve as a passer. It's on them.
And he was still the 2019 MVP. So, it's madness. The whole situation is madness, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better.
He's 26 years old. This is absolutely insanity. And the Atlanta Falcons, an absolute joke of a franchise. I'm not even talking to him. But there you go.
The thing with Lamar, when he got injured against the Broncos, before that, going into that game or coming out of it, they had a 2-game lead streak in their division. They'd won 5 of the 6 games going into that game. They ended up losing. They lost 4 of the last 5, scraped into the playoffs, and managed to lose the division by 2 games. Lamar is a very good quarterback. The big problem is, that you can't have a conversation with an agent to bring that valuation down. If he believes he's worth 200 million and that's his valuation, good luck to him. I just don't think any team will want to pay 200 million. If you're paying 200 million, you're guaranteeing it into the 4th and 5th year. There aren't many contracts where that happens. Now, this comment of not having an agent, Bobby Wagner never had an agent. He does it himself. There's plenty of players who do it themselves. There's not a problem with that. The problem is when you're asking for massive amounts of money, that's where it can become an issue.
I don't know why we're still talking about it, Dave, because we've lost our 5 minutes. So we have to move on. Rules is rules.
Okay.
Right.
Go for it.
Besides, it's time to talk about my team. Talk about my Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'll just sit back now and relax and just
relax,
give you the 5 minutes. You can handle this one.
Thank you very much. So, the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era in Pittsburgh, but not the true start of the Kenny Pickett age. The Steelers started the season with free agency pickup Mitch Trubisky, but after just 3 games, including an abject loss to the Browns, the Steelers put in Kenny P. A concussion for Pickett stunted his rookie season, but he came back in time to help on the 4-game streak to end with a winning record, though half a game less than last year. Best game, the Week 1 win in Cincinnati was awesome, but it cost us TJ Watt for half of the season, so I couldn't have that one. As we only beat bad teams, I'm going to take the Week 18 win over the Cleveland Clowns, with Deshaun playing and because it gave us that winning season, but didn't throw us into the playoffs as chum in the water for the best teams. Worst game where we got routed by the Bills and the Eagles, lost division games to all 3 of our rivals, which is outrageous. 2 of them at home. The one that stands out to me, though, was the Jets' home loss, because I think we were good enough to win that, but we folded in the 4th, and there was that Cam Hayward foul call, which is a joke too. So, Pittsburgh, finally know what it's like to not have Ben Roethlisberger for an entire season. Don't like it. I knew I wouldn't. But them's is the breaks. I've been very lucky.
At this point, Jim is being very kind about Mr. Pickett, their quarterback. If you go onto our YouTube channel, you'll see his reaction when I picked Mr. Pickett for the Pittsburgh Steelers in our mock draft.
I picked him. So I picked Mike. Sorry, that was it.
No, I'm the GM. I do the pick.
Promoted him.
You suggested him.
Yes.
So
Punk
I
picked
pitched him to you. You
Yes.
picked him. Jim was absolutely devastated. Called me, what was it? Lazy podcasting. You said, no, what was it? Lazy drafting.
Yes.
But I've been right 2 years running, and you slandered me on both occasions.
The reason for that, the reason it was lazy drafting is because Kevin Colbert, who was the GM, was also a lazy drafter. So the year before, we need a running back, so we went for Najee Harris in the first round. This year, we need a quarterback, so we went for Kenny Pickett.
So what you're saying is we embodied the spirit of your GM absolutely perfectly and did our jobs exceedingly well.
Yes.
You know exactly what was going to happen. That's not what I wanted to happen. So there's the difference. It wasn't an easy year for him. He ended up with 10 total touchdowns in 13 games. To compare him then to Ben Roethlisberger, you said it was washed in 2021. Ben played 16 games, got 23 total touchdowns. And most of those were passing, by the way. So 9 interceptions. He at least ended up with a positive touchdown interception ratio.
I think there are a couple of positives for you. I think your defense was good.
Yeah.
Obviously, TJ Watt, we all know, is a beast. I think you should trade him away to the Raiders very, very quickly.
No chance.
I think Najee Harris really kind of started coming into his own and getting good carries, good yards. I think he's really kind of become a leader to help out Pickett on the offense.
And Jalen Warren is another running back that we had there. So those two together were working really well together. Went from 29th in rushing last year to 16th this year.
There you go. That's improvement. You can't go wrong with improvement.
You've improved to being bang average. Well done.
Yeah, we went from 20th in points allowed to 10th this year. So we also tightened up that defense. I'm happy that we kept a lot of teams close. We just need to turn those more to wins.
But doesn't that just indicate you played worse teams?
Oh, we did play some bad teams, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you ended the season with 6 wins out of 7 games, but the teams you played, you could not have picked a worse roster. But hey, man, you won the games you needed to win, and I was
yeah, what was we supposed to do?
It was a who's who of diabolical teams in there. It really was. I mean, I include the Raiders in that, but you were having a bad time. That was a bad Raiders team at that point.
Have you looked in the mirror recently at the Broncos? I mean, you're flailing around saying everyone's a bad team, and you know
I would have included us as well. Listen, you want to know bad teams? They had the Panthers, they had the Falcons, they had the Colts, they had the Raiders, they had the Browns. There were some bad teams in there. You can't deny that. But
I'm not denying it.
They won the games that was in front of them.
The one thing I was
going to say, the one thing that I want to know now is, Jim, you were devastated when you drafted him. How are you feeling now? What's your thoughts?
As I said in another podcast about the quarterback rankings, I think that he's got a very low ceiling.
Look, I think the Steelers, at the end of the day, we have to give them credit for one thing and one thing only that's made them have, in their eyes, a good season. They've managed to secure Mike Tomlin's never have a losing season record.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as the Steelers are concerned, that's probably as good as it was going to get.
Yeah, exactly. And also, let's not forget, I got the 32nd pick in the draft thanks to Ryan Poles and Chase Claypool. So looking forward to what we do in the draft this year. So we move on to the final team, the basement team in the AFC North. They weren't that last year, but they are this year. And I'm sure most Brown fans had this season written off. They sold the farm for alleged serial sexual miscreant Deshaun Watson and knew that he was suspended for just 11 games. So next season is more important to them. Of course, that trade still resonates as they don't have a first round or third round pick this year, or a first round and fourth round pick next year. The wage structure also kicks in, so they'll be paying him $46 million for the next 4 years, regardless of his performance. And his performance needs to have drastically improved over the offseason for that investment to be worth the headache and further tarnish reputation of this franchise. Best game, I'm sure Browns fans were happy that they got an easyish win against the Texans in Watson's first game, but the Week 8 division win over the Bengals 32-13, where they kept Burrow relatively quiet and Nick Chubb ran all over them, must have been a good one to look back on. Worst game, they lost a lot of games to good teams and lost to some bad ones too. I picked the Week 16 game at home to the Saints with Andy Dalton returning and getting the W. It was terrible weather and the Saints are supposed to be one of the worst teams playing in bad conditions. So yeah, that was just awful. Guys, talking about the Browns, obviously they weren't expecting much from this season and they didn't really get it either.
Do we really have to talk about the Browns for 5 minutes? I mean, that feels like an awful long time just to say Nick Chubb's an excellent running back and he should get the hell out of Dodge as soon as he can.
Oh, they are talking about potentially trading him, which
so.
would be nice to see.
Definitely. I'd love to see Nick Chubb on a decent team.
How much do you give up for a running back, though, that's been around for, what, 6 years?
I think it depends, doesn't it? You've got to really expect him to make a difference. So you'd need him to go somewhere with a decent offensive line. That also, you don't have so many diva receivers that are going to cry if they don't get the ball all the time. So, it's difficult to think of landing spots for him right off the bat. But equally, I think you could probably go to the Browns with an offer of a second or a third, and they'd probably jump at it because they've got so little draft capital for the next couple of years because of the stupid trade that they did. That it really wouldn't surprise me if Chubb was gone and actually playing on a decent team next season.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the amount of the cap hit that they've got for Watson, you mentioned it was 46 million, Jim. That's the yearly cash.
Yeah.
The actual cap, because they reduced the amount in year one.
Yes.
This year, just under 55 million.
Yeah.
If they decided to cut him this year, his dead cap would be 220 million. I hope that happens. I really hope that happens.
That would be amazing.
It would be the funniest thing in the world, wouldn't it? No,
Russell Wilson, they're tied into him now. They are married.
But if
they did that, they'd be playing an XFL team because they couldn't afford to pay anybody.
I know.
It'd be amazing.
They deserve nothing more. The one thing that I do want to happen with the Browns is last year they obviously started the season with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, and Jacoby Brissett I think is had an opportunity to be a number one. He hasn't fulfilled it, but I'd like to see an organization really get behind him in the way that the Seahawks did with Geno Smith. So, really give him the opportunity, go all out, because Indiana didn't really do that. It didn't really have any weapons when he was the starter at Indiana, and it didn't last that long.
Indianapolis.
Not Indianapolis. Yeah. So I'd kind of like him to see that, to get that opportunity again, or Deshaun Watson get injured and get another opportunity. I'm down with that as well.
Well, Brissett's out of contract, so they're gonna have to re-sign him if they want to keep him around, even as the backup. Just one more thing about Deshaun, and let's talk about his numbers very quickly. He had 7 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown in his 6 games with 5 interceptions. And 5 of those passing touchdowns came in the first 2 games. So his production actually trailed off as it went on. He averaged 183 passing.
It didn't trail off. It dropped off a cliff.
He threw 4 picks in 6 of those games. So,
yeah.
4 picks in 6 games. 4 picks in 6 games.
There was 23 women that accused him of sexual misconduct. That's the only number that counts. 23.
It is. From a sporting and footballing perspective, though, you expect him to improve as time goes, not drop off a cliff as time goes. You kind of excuse the first couple of games, and all right, so he hasn't played in a couple of years. That's fine. We'll give him a couple more games. But there was just no evidence. There wasn't even one quarter where you sat there and kind of went, you know what? There is still a little spark there. There's something happening. I don't know what the Browns think is going to happen with him in this offseason, but I can see him absolutely tanking again next year.
Well, we can only hope so.
On the second to last game of the season, I know we're running towards the end of the clock, but the second to last game of the season,
that's the end of the clock.
9 completions in the entire game. That tells 169 yards. That tells you everything you need to know. They don't trust him.
And you shouldn't. Someone you shouldn't trust in the league, Deshaun Watson should be right at the top of that list. So there we go. That was the AFC North Autopsy. Do we think it's going to be markedly different next year in that order? Obviously,
yes.
Well,
considering that we don't know what the situation in Baltimore.
Well, I was going to say,
Yeah.
Let's say that he sits the whole year. Let's say I don't think Lamar's ever going to play for the Ravens again. I don't think he should play for them again.
If Lamar sits for the whole year, then the Ravens and the Browns will be battling out for 3 wins, as we stand currently. Maybe 4 if you're lucky. I still see Cincinnati at this moment in time being the cream of the division. I think the Steelers, if they can keep healthy and keep progressing Pickett. If he doesn't take a step backwards, we'll get closer to them. And I think, depending on your draft and free agent pickups and what have you, you should be looking at a playoff spot next year. But
maybe
fitness and health is a massive thing, especially on your defense.
I think there'll be a small improvement from Kenny Pickett next year. I think we might see his best.
You hope.
I think it's likely now that we've kind of cleared off Trubisky as a distraction there. Kenny knows it's his team now for at least a season.
This twitchiness.
The one thing that you would expect to happen is for conversations to be happening right now with Pickett and whoever the defensive coordinator is. I can't remember who it is.
Matt Canada.
Oh God, there should be conversations happening right now where you're building a playbook, and he should be working on it as it goes. And same with Derek Watson as well. He should be, building a playbook as he goes on, because not only with his ban, he was not allowed in the facility at certain points either. So it would have affected his game. You have to get Kenny Pickett and Deshaun Watson both have to be better next season. Are they in a position where they can challenge Cincinnati? Probably not. It's as simple as that. I don't think the division looks too different than this season than next.
No, I agree. I don't think there's a huge jump or fall by anybody, apart from possibly the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, you might get swap a position there and there, but I don't think there's not going to be anything drastic, I don't think.
No. And there you go, guys. So that was the AFC North. Check back in with us next week. We'll be doing the AFC South, moving on then into the NFC and covering off those divisions. Of course, if you want to get some extra stuff, you can always go to thefarmdown.com to see all of our stuff there that's currently available. Or if you want to see stuff that's not available to just mere mortals, then you can go to patreon.com/finaldown to catch all the stuff there that's still hidden away and only given out to our very special people that we really like at the West. But of course, if you want to hit us up on Twitter, you can, at FardownNFL, at Pungo_Scorader, at DenverDave30, at FStall17. But until next week, guys, I've been Jim, that's been Never Dave, that's been Punk Radio. Thank you very much for listening.